Hello, my name is Justine, and I'm one of the Writing and Study Skills tutors at Wake Tech. In this video about writing for psychology, we will be looking at APA format. There are some other videos out there. The last one was about finding sources in the research process, which would come before citing your sources, what we're going to talk about today. So if you haven't checked those out, you might go look at those as well. Okay, but today we'll be looking at how to properly cite your sources that you use in your papers and make sure that your APA formatting has all the details that it needs. Okay, first with APA documentation, you want to remember that there are two parts. First are your in-text citations. Those are the citations that come in your paper. They show where you got your information from, and it directs your reader to the second part of the system, which is the references page. Now, the references page gives credit to the work of somebody else with the full source information. And the references page also allows you to be transparent about the sources that you used. So let's look at those a little bit more closely now. So in-text citations, whenever you paraphrase or quote, so whether you're using the direct quote words that are in the original source, or you're putting it in your own words, you must include an in-text citation to show where you got the information from. So here are some examples of in-text citations. If you have just one source, or I'm sorry, one author, you would include the author's last name, the year of publication, and the page number if you have it, and if there's a direct quote that you've used. And this information would come in parentheses, just like you see here, where we have Walker, comma, 2019, comma, and then page 23. Now, if you have two authors, it's the same thing, but you would include both last names and use this and sign. In this case, there was no page number, so it's just comma 2019, and that's the end of the citation. If you have three or more authors, you use the last name of the first author listed, in this case, Johnson, and then we have this et al., which means and others. And it's formatted just like that, ET space AL period, comma, and then your year. And if you don't have an author listed for the source, you can just use a shortened version of the title. So the interesting psychology here, the full article title was The Interesting Psychology of Memory in Children, something like that. And in this case, I've just shortened it to the first few words, and you still include that comma and the year. Now, when you're citing within your text, there are two ways you can do it. They're called parenthetical citations and narrative citations. The parenthetical just appears at the end of your sentence. So in this case, we have some paraphrased information here in the sentence. So in parentheses, I've got the author. In this case, I have more than one author or three or more authors. So I'm including the et al. And then the year. You can also do it in a narrative form, which means that you have the author's name listed right in your sentence. So if I want to say Fickers et al. Considered two types, it's the same paraphrased information, but I'm using the author's name in my sentence. So in that case, I put the year in parentheses right after the author's name. So just two different ways to have that information. Another thing to consider is how you sandwich your quoted or paraphrased information in the middle of your paragraph. So you never want to just drop quotes on their own. And instead, you always want to introduce the idea with your own words. And then in this case, it's not a direct quote, but paraphrased information. But we introduce the idea, then we point to the citation or the source material, and then we are commenting or reflecting on that information afterwards as well. So this helps you avoid too many back-to-back sentences of quoted or cited material. And you want to remember too, for psychology, often your instructor will encourage you to use mostly paraphrasing when using your source material rather than direct quotes. All right, and here are just a few citation tips to keep in mind. You want to make sure that you use a variety of verbs. So things like stated, said, argued, explained, confirmed, when you're referring to the author's last name in your signal phrase. When you put a verb with their name, you can use different verbs like those, and you want to make sure that they're also past tense. APA uses past tense verbs, just like you see here. And that signal phrase just alerts your reader that cited material is coming. You could also do it in a way like you see here, according to Ferris and Stein. We put that 2020 in parentheses for the publication date, and then go on with our quote or paraphrase. And then in the very end of the sentence is where we would have the page number. We talked about making sure that you're introducing source material and commenting on its significance before you move on to the next point. That's that quote sandwich or citation sandwich. Also, you want to be sure that you're referencing the author's credibility. So if you do include the author in your sentence, you might also give some idea about why the reader should trust this source. Why is this a credible source? So you might state their expertise or the article that they have written, just the first time that you refer to them, basically letting the reader know why they're trustworthy. You will use the author's full name the first time you refer to them in your sentence. Then just by last name would be the way to refer to them. And remember that only last names appear in parenthetical citations. So never will you include first names or initials within the parentheses. Okay, and now let's look at the references page. So the references page is a list of all of your sources cited in the paper, and it is the last page of your paper itself. And you can see here that it's alphabetized for easy reference by whatever comes first in the citation. So usually that's the last name. Sometimes it might be the title, but whatever you see first, you'll be alphabetizing by that. So every source that is either quoted or paraphrased and cited within your essay itself will appear on the references page and vice versa. And you can see that the references page basically answers these questions pretty much in this order. Who wrote it? When did they write it? What is the title and where was it published? And your Psychology 150 text, if this is the one that is used in your particular class, this is what your book citation would look like. You see you've got your authors there, and then the year in parentheses, the title of the book, the edition, and the publisher. And you might also notice that the author names, it's only last name and then the initials. That is just the way the APA format is for the references page. As far as formatting too, you can see that it's double spaced just like the rest of your paper, and there is a hanging indent where additional lines beyond the first line are indented, and that just helps us easily see the different sources on the references page. Okay, thank you for listening to this video about APA format. Hopefully you've learned some helpful information about citing sources so that you can do that properly for the papers you write for psychology. And remember, if you do need any help with your writing assignments, whether it's with your citations or something else, you can always schedule a one-on-one tutoring appointment with us. Good luck with your course.